All right, it's the appointed hour. We will start here in about 1 minute. All right, welcome everyone. Just want everybody to look over here at Stephen Zoller. So thank you for joining us today to help us out. We appreciate that. Okay. We don't blow the whistle 3 times like the chief says. Okay, you got that? Right, chief? Yeah, that's right, inside. Okay, starting off on talking about our Tuesday work session on the 20th, I only have one topic, a review of Concord United. The report on that and how that's going. And if you have anything else, I need to have it by the end of the meeting on Thursday, if you have any other topics for that. All right. On Thursday, we'll have 3 presentations for the proclamation recognizing June 19th to 25th as National Pollinators Week, a proclamation to Mrs. Ruth Brooks, and a presentation and proclamation recognizing June 19th, 2023 as Juneteenth Day. We'll also have a report from Downtown Streetscape Update, and that gets us into our public hearings, of which I'd like the council to consider on item 5 to go ahead and table it to the July meeting. Is there a motion to table that until the July meeting?
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, raise your hand. Thank you very much. So, Lloyd, conduct a public hearing. Consider Ref Tellis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Call on Jessica to come forward and present this item to council this evening.
Raf Tellis came and presented on the system development fee study that we conducted, as we're required to every 5 years. And so part of that process is we then have to publish it publicly for 45 days for comment. We did that and received no comments. And so now the next step is a public hearing as required before those fees can be adopted as effective July 1. So that is what we'll be doing on Thursday, is the public hearing that's required. I'm not going to do the whole presentation again that Elaine did in April, but I'm happy to answer any questions if y'all have any about the system development fees.
Any question from council? Okay, thank you very much. Item number 2, conduct a public hearing pursuant to NC General Statutes 159-12.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll have prepared comments for you and council on Thursday evening once the public hearing is open, and ask for your consideration to adopt the upcoming fiscal year budget.
Okay, and we'll be having 2 votes, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. So as required by the North Carolina General Statute change, I think a year or so ago, maybe a couple years ago now, we will have 2 separate budgets, 2 separate votes. One of the votes will be for the funding for the Cabarrus County Arts Council, and then the second vote will be for the remainder of the budget.
Okay. Thank you. Any question from council? All right. Item 3, conduct a public hearing. Consider adopting a request from Childress Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Call on Kevin from the Plan Department. He's going to handle the item number 3 and 4 under public hearing for you this evening.
Thank you.
Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, this item is we're asking you to consider a joint planning resolution proposed by Childress Klein. This is something a little different. We've done annexation agreements with other jurisdictions where properties in an area of consideration for annexation, and we've allowed Huntersville to annex into the city of Concord, but this one's a little different. So just in terms of a little bit of background, a little over a year ago, we've had the owners of this parcel of land on the south side of Quay Road contact us about some development options for the property. It's just south of Concord Mills. As you see, it's just northwest of Interstate 85. And it's part of a land owned in common ownership, 48.21 acres, and there are 11.54 acres within the city limits. The remainder is in Mecklenburg County, actually in the Charlotte ETJ. And zoning on our side is C2, that allows commercial uses, your typical commercial uses, and multifamily uses on 30% of the parcel as a special use. If you remember, a few years ago, we took multifamily out of C2 zoning 100% and put that 30% requirement in there to keep prime commercial properties from being gobbled up with large multifamily developments. So a little bit of background. Back in 2021, the Charlotte City Council, on their side of the county line, unanimously rezoned that 36.67 acres, which is in their ETJ, for 488 multifamily units. The developers took a look and, in an effort to achieve a unified, consistent multifamily development, they explored using our zoning on the 11.54 acres on our side, either through that special use permit provision for the 30% or rezoning to RC. Between the two jurisdictions, buffers are different, parking's different, height limits are different, so on and so forth. So they decided that perhaps their most efficient process would be to utilize the Charlotte development requirements, and they can do it through this provision of the general statutes, 160D, 203, and 204. If you recall, about 2 years ago, you did a wholesale readoption of the zoning code based on the 160D changes. We had to change certain things in our ordinance. And this was one part of the statutes that was adopted at that time. And it allows two jurisdictions, if there is land that's split by jurisdiction lines, to adopt mutual resolutions to allow one side to send their property to the other side for development, to allow for that more cohesive and unified development. In terms of the process, we've talked, going back to my previous statement, we've talked extensively with Childress Klein's legal counsel over the past year. We've discussed the issue with the Charlotte staff on how to best look at this parcel. I know the developers had some conversations with elected officials, both on this side and in the Charlotte area. And so in terms of the process, again, each jurisdiction is required to adopt a resolution to agree to the split jurisdiction provision in 160D, 203, and 204. That resolution has to be recorded by the Register of Deeds within 14 days of the last party to adopt it. And the way we're proposing is to have you consider the initial resolution, Charlotte would consider their resolution in a subsequent month. And for the project to move forward, you would have to adopt the resolution, Charlotte would have to adopt the resolution, and if that happens, the developers would file a rezoning petition for the 11.54 acres to add that property into the previously approved zoning in Charlotte. Remember, there is an improved zoning petition on the Charlotte side. They would amend it to bring in the 11.54 acres on our side. And should that rezoning not be approved, it would still be in the city of Concord and be zone C2. So in terms of property taxes, we would maintain all the property taxes. That would not change. Cabarrus County, city of Concord. Water and sewer would be provided by Charlotte. So that part's well buttoned up. Emergency services and school jurisdictions would be provided on the respective side of the county lines for the 11.54 acres. Those children would go to our schools, emergency services through us, and vice versa on the Charlotte side. Yes, sir.
Just on that point.
Yes, sir.
Go back one more slide. Keep going, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Right there. There's a few buildings that actually split between us and Mecklenburg.
Yes, sir. And
Split in that building.
no, we have mentioned that as being a concern to the developer. They've told me they would look to move those around and make sure that they're on, because we would hate for a bedroom to be split between the two. Your son goes to Mecklenburg, your daughter goes to Cabarrus. It could be an issue, and it would.
So while you're on that slide, what would be some of the differences we would see if we take the Charlotte and
Can I go to the slide that I was on? It's got some of those points.
Before you go, I got one more. If we're doing emergency services in school, do they have to go around to Mecklenburg County to get into there? Because it doesn't look like there's a Quay Road entrance.
There actually does appear to be two Quay Road entrances.
Okay, there are. Okay.
Yes. So
Okay,
there would be.
cool.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
This slide, I drove down Quay Road, and I wouldn't recommend anybody driving down Quay Road, to be honest. It's not much more than a dirt road. What's gonna happen to Quay Road?
There are, and I don't know how this is been worked out, and perhaps a petitioner can address this Thursday night. There was a TIA that was done for that 488 units in Mecklenburg that proposed some traffic improvements, and it encompassed the 11.54 acres. So I don't know if there are transportation improvements relative to Quay or not.
Is Quay Road the main, where's the in and out?
It's going to be back to the west if you see the, right, there's a larger spine road coming in from Derrida.
There's not an entrance off of Quay Road to this?
Yeah, two,
Right.
two of them.
It looks like there would be two there, which would, right.
Who did the TIA?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. Can we get our hands on it?
Sure, I mean, we'd ask the petitioners if
Okay.
they could provide it to us.
I'd like to understand how Quay Road comes into play. And because at the end of Quay Road is not a fun area either, because it's coming out of the mall, if you're gonna use that as an area, so, okay.
If you recall, many years ago, that was where we preserved the right-of-way for the bridge and moved rooms to go over a bit, because they were trying to close that road at the end, and we felt like maybe sometime in the way future, we wanted to have the ability to go across that interstate if we wanted to. So I remember moving rooms to go over a little bit. Yep,
Would be now.
There was some discussion last night on that at the DOT meeting,
was there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
right or wrong.
You know, way back, there was idea of a bridge coming across there and connecting all that property, but
Yep.
that's pretty much in the past now, I think, so.
So from a planning standpoint, again, the property, it's zone C2, and the land use plan designates it as commercial. And again, that does permit multifamily in some certain situations. But from a planning perspective, there's not a lot of visibility there, and it may not be well suited for commercial development. If you go back to the rooms to go, that's on Quay Road, but it has the interstate visibility. Furthermore, if you see to the northwest of the property, there's an existing multifamily development on Carolina Lily, and also one proposed, which is also a Mecklenburg straddling project on this side of Quay. And there's additionally multifamily on the other side of Concord Mills. So it's not an area that's absent multifamily development. The dwelling units, Charlotte density is 18.3 dwelling units an acre. Our density, if they were to obtain a plan amendment and rezone, would be 15 units an acre. So it's not something that's drastically, it's not like it's going from 15 units an acre to 60 units an acre. It's a fairly minor deviation from what we would approve if they were to come in and petition for an RC zoning. And additionally, the traffic impact analysis, as I mentioned, with the 2021 zoning factored in the 212 units. And the petitioners are actually here, but I can ask them prior to Thursday night if you'd like to get a copy of the TIA, if we can get a little further information for you. So that's, from a planning perspective, that's kind of where we landed. And Valerie and I concluded that the best course of action would be to conduct this as a public hearing, since it's a development ordinance change in a way. And so you conduct the hearing and consider approval or denial of the resolution on Thursday night.
I have one last question. Do we have any, I'll use the word deals, agreements like this in place anywhere else?
This will actually be, I think this has been done elsewhere in the state, but we've not done anything that doesn't involve an annexation agreement. We've done that with Huntersville, where the property's not in the city, and we've allowed them to annex it within our area of jurisdiction, but nothing in terms of a split resolution, mutual resolution.
And that'll probably, Valerie, do we need to do what am I trying to think of? My mind just, a land use plan amendment also?
No, sir, I think the,
We don't have to
the
do
zoning as it is fits with the land use plan amendment.
Okay.
Or with the land use
And
plan.
all that would be transferred.
We're
over
just simply
to Charlotte.
voting to adhere to that state law that allows us to do that, pretty much. Yeah, okay.
Correct. And there's a resolution in your materials.
JC?
very small in Concord. Was that developed under our codes and ordinance, or did we let Huntersville?
Well, it depends which part of Skybrook. The older parts, my understanding, was done in the county, and then we annexed. I think did some involuntary annexations, and there are parts of Skybrook that straddled the county line that we worked with Huntersville with common development, the newer portions.
Everybody okay? Welcome, John. Okay. We all clear. Thank you very much. Next one. Number 4, conduct a public hearing considering ordinance annexing 3.34 acres.
And this one is much simpler, I promise. This is an annexation of actually street right-of-way of Amalia Street and Northeast Gateway Court. And it's on the east side of Copperfield, just north of Branchview, south of the 85 interchange. And again, the little piece coming in, it is Northeast Gateway Court. This is Amalia, this is the Northeast Medical Center, Governor's Point, Overbrook, Partridge Bluff to the east. The current zoning of the overall general area is C2. Again, this is public street right-of-way. It was built with the Copperfield development in our ETJ. It was never annexed into the city, so we haven't taken it over for maintenance. And so the purpose of this is to actually bring the street right-of-way into the city so we can accept it for maintenance. Surrounding areas completely C2, general commercial. And these are the existing conditions again. Charlotte Eye, Ear, Nose, and Throat, and the Atrium Medical Facility, rest area, Governor's Point, so on and so forth. So your options are to consider the request and adopt or deny the annexation.
Question from council. Yes, Jason.
Back a slide, please, Gary. I want to make sure I look at this correctly. We're taking the road, but all of the property that touches that road, besides Charlotte Eye, Nose, still in the county.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to take a finished road and maintain it while all the land is developed. That doesn't seem like the way we do things.
Yeah, well, actually, before we would issue permits for these developments, they would have to file an annexation petition in order to get utilities.
But
That's
it's
sort
going
of-
to make us maintain a road that's being used for construction for the next, which is not the way we just, I don't understand that.
Why would we not just annex that whole piece?
Well, the way the annexation statutes are now is they have to be a voluntary petition by the developer in order to annex vacant land. We can't do any type of forced annexation without
And we don't have to approve either.
without a referendum. And I know the reason the developer's wanting to do it is to get the maintenance out of their hands.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, is like, basically, they're just saying, like, we've got some issues on this road and we need y'all to pay for it. Yeah.
Yeah,
The assessment on that road, the county.
and again, as the mayor said, this is a request from the landowner, so council certainly can consider it denied if you so choose. It's not something that you're, bound to do or required to do, so it's certainly up to council.
Okay, any more questions? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Item 5 has been tabled till next month. Presentation of petitions and requests. Number 1, consider adopting a reimbursement resolution declaring the intent of the city of Concord to reimburse itself.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Calling Jessica to come back up and present this item.
Good afternoon again. This is related to an item that is in the fiscal year 24 CIP. We have a new fire station out at the airport that includes a David District substation and the communications building behind Fire 3 that we are planning to finance. That is the way it is in the budget currently. So this is just a reimbursement resolution for that planned financing so that if we incur costs prior to being ready to actually borrow the money, we can reimburse ourselves once we borrow the money. So this is that reimbursement resolution.
All right, question from council? All right, thank you. Item number 2, consider authorizing city manager to negotiate and execute a 1-year contract extension, addendum 3, with Town of Harrisburg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jeff will present this item to council this evening.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. For your consideration is a 1-year extension, otherwise known as Addendum 3, to our water sales agreement with the Town of Harrisburg. The current agreement expires on June 31st of this year. Our intent is, both parties intend to negotiate a longer-term agreement. However, there's a lot of water studies. You're aware of the Wasac water study underway. The town of Harrisburg is also planning to conduct their own water source study hopefully this calendar year. So a lot of moving parts that we think would benefit both parties to come back a year from now. Be much easier for us to have those discussions. Really, a couple changes. One is the removal of any reference to the reserve capacity charges. Before their second tank was built, they were leasing some space in our elevated tank to comply with some state regulations. So that is referenced as being gone. And then we have removed, right now, if they exceed 1.6 million, they are charged a penalty rate. So their water rate is a little higher. We have proposed in this one-year agreement to remove that and raise it to 2 million. They are frequently going over that 1.6 million. So we feel that that penalty charge will be probably a point of negotiation next year. But we felt with them being willing to negotiate this 1 year to get us to a much better spot, that we would allow them to remove those penalties up to 2 million. It does not change the amount of water that we promised to give them. This is just removing that small penalty if they go over the 1.6.
Question from council?
Can you clarify the expiration date of the current addendum?
Yeah, so it is July 31st. We're not quite sure how that happened, but our intent is that this 1-year extension will go till June 30th. Just feels like a much better date in my brain, so those are the dates that we're dealing with now. So,
Okay, thank you.
All right,
thank you.
thank you. All right, number 3, consider approving a Concord co-sponsorship application from Downtown Concord Cabarrus Arts Council Art Walk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Items 3 and 4 are both co-sponsorship requests, and so Ian will cover both of these items for council this evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. The first co-sponsorship application before you tonight is for the Art Walk on Union to be held on June 24th on Union Street and Cabarrus Avenue. The applicant describes this event as a community event in partnership with Cabarrus Arts Council and Downtown Concord to bring artists, food, and music to the downtown area. The applicant is requesting police presence, barricades, and trash cans as in-kind services for the event. So after speaking with staff, the estimated cost to the city would be approximately $6,000. Happy to answer any questions.
Question from council. All right, thank you.
The next co-sponsorship application before you is for a Juneteenth block party to be held on June 17th at Caldwell Park. The applicant is requesting that the 85-15 revenue split agreement be waived for vendors that will be on site. The applicant is also requesting resources from Concord Police and Concord Fire for a bike rodeo event during the celebration. After speaking with staff, the estimated cost to this city would be approximately $1,700. I will note that our Human Resources and Risk Department are currently evaluating the insurance coverage levels listed on the applicant's submitted COI to ensure proper coverage before approving that COI. So hoping to have some answers for you by Thursday on.
What is a bike rodeo event?
Sir, I'm not quite sure.
It's child safety. It's, Betty knows, I'm sorry.
I'll let Chief explain it, or one of the officers. But anyway, it's a bike safety
Okay.
activity to teach kids how to, operate.
The proper
and
way
ride-
to operate a
ride bike.
bicycle. Okay.
Yes.
They like do it at elementary schools and stuff, you know.
And Brian, are you going to sit through that again? You're not? Okay, good. Just making sure. Just making sure. Thank you. Number 5, consider awarding a bid authorizing city manager to execute a contract with Williams Electric.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alex will present this construction item for you this evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. Electric staff took bids on April 20th for contract labor and equipment. These bids for labor and equipment is to install new electric infrastructure as well as maintain existing infrastructure on our system. We received 6 bids, with Williams Electric being the lowest at $6,077.83. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Alex? You don't have any? None? 3 cents an hour, that's it. Got it. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
Number 6, consider authorizing city manager to negotiate and execute a contract with McAdams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sheila is going to present this item as we continue to move forward on the park projects that council has approved. So Sheila?
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. Before you tonight is the design contract for Dave Phillips Activity Center Park. We are requesting approval to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with McAdams in the amount of $290,620. The future park was identified as a part of the bond referendum approved in November. The master plan was completed by Viz Design and was adopted by council September 2020. This park focuses on environmental education, which includes an orchard, community garden, nature trails, and outdoor learning spaces. The contract will include schematic design, site work, architectural design plans, design development, and construction documents. As part of the project, Parks and Recreation will hold community meetings with the neighborhood and public to provide updates throughout the process. This park will also serve as a future trailhead for the McEachern Greenway. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any question from council?
I have one. Can you explain the 50%, 95%, and 100% level? What does that mean?
What that is they will do designs, and 100% completion is the contract or the true construction documents. But throughout the process, instead of us waiting to review the documents when it's 100%, we review them at that 50, and that way we have chances and opportunities to make adjustments at a staff level before we get to construction documents.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
when do you think how long from this point till we start breaking ground on that project, generally?
For this one, it's a part of Group 1 that you guys adopted or plans. Design normally takes anywhere from 12 to 18 months, depending on the extensiveness, because this is also adjacent to 3 Mile Branch, so there's floodway, floodplain. So there's some items that extend the life of design and how long it takes. A good example, Caldwell Park and Jim Ramsor Park have taken 2 years to complete through design. Dorton Park has taken 18 months. My hope. The plan on the calendar for this project is to be able to begin construction by 2027, 2028 is the plan for this park as a part of the Group 1. We always want them to finish early. That way we can break ground early and we can move to the next projects. As council asked, citizens want to see us moving, so that's our goal.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
You talked about visiting with community members and that kind of thing. I would just hope that they spend a few minutes talking to Dave Phillips himself. I mean, this is around the corner from Dave's house, and I think he would appreciate it. I'm not sure he's going to change anything of it, but just to say to him, this is what's going to happen in your name, it would be nice to know, to get his blessing.
Understood.
And with 2027 being the construction start, where do the greenways that feed this fall into that?
McEachern Greenway and the gap between the Miramar and Dave Phillips along that corridor is a DOT planned widening for Highway 3. So that section may have to, we're looking at neighborhood connectivity versus along Branchview because of the NC DOT timeline for widening Highway 3. we are looking at that. The first part of the Greenway gets us to Miramar. The next part we will explore is through the neighborhood, that access point, and then hopefully by then we know the deadline and the timeline for NCDOT for widening Highway 3. We just would like to not do work and then it go away because they're widening it. We want to make sure we mirror and we align the dominoes based on NCDOT.
While at the same time giving access.
Yes,
in
sir.
an alternate way.
Yes,
Until
sir.
that time is available.
And then if that works, then you have a loop.
Yep, yep, okay.
Gotta ask Philip, 3 fell out of the step, did it not? It's not in your lifetime.
Yeah, well, let's have that lifetime discussion.
Well, and I think that was a big kicker. You know, we had built plans based on that
Yeah.
project when it was in the STIP, and then when it came out, it was like, oh my goodness, now we've got to, you know, go back and start acquiring individual properties to make that connection, whereas we were just gonna, you know, ride along the right-of-way for DOT and we were gonna be set, but that didn't happen, so.
And you have been acquiring
But,
right-of-ways.
you know, that gives an opportunity to tie into Beverly Hills Park too. If you go up Miramar through a sidewalk, you could tie into Beverly Hills Park and then somehow through the neighborhood just have sort of like we have it in the downtown area. I know that's what you're already thinking,
would,
I'm sure, but
the
seems like
challenge
a
is-
blessing in disguise maybe, or an opportunity that we didn't think about.
Opportunity, you're right.
Yeah. Well, it certainly gives us an opportunity to do more work, because now the individual negotiations with property owners, whereas before riding the right-of-way was gonna be pretty simple, and now the staff time that it takes, it is an opportunity to engage with the neighbors, but.
And we may find that one day we don't need to do it after all, because it's just utilized so well through, who knows, you know, we'll see.
Future will determine it.
All right, any more questions? All right. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
Number 7, consider authorizing city manager to negotiate an extra contract with Performance Managed Construction.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Call on Rick to come forward and present this item to council this evening.
Mayor Dush, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolshinsky, Ms. Deason. Before you is an item for the pavement repair on the southbound lane with George Lyles, near the intersection with Roberta Farm. Back in July of '22, one of our water lines that goes under the pavement broke. Our water department promptly went out and repaired the line and patched the pavement. However, the subgrade was saturated and traffic was allowed to go back in as normal, and it caused additional damage to the road. And DOT is contacted us and asked us to repair a section, basically the whole intersection with Roberta Farms. It's about 5,000 square feet. So we bid this project out under the formal bidding process. We received bids, and the first time we only got 1 bid, so we returned the bids. So it was bid a second time, and the second time we received 2 bids. And the lowest bid was Performance Management Construction in the amount of $486,205.50. So, any questions?
Any questions? Okay. All right. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Number 8, consider approving a change in speed limit, 35 to 25.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Philip's going to cover both items 8 and 9 this evening for council.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Koldzinsky, Ms. Deason. This first item is again for the change in speed limit from 35 to 25 miles per hour for the entire Allen Mills subdivision. The neighborhood requested staff's consideration to just install speed limit signs throughout the neighborhood recently, and the current non-posted speed limit by general statute is 35 miles an hour. So staff performed a traffic engineering study, as we do with all speed limit posting requests, and determined that the 85th percentile, which to define that is what 85% of the cars are traveling that speed or lower. By our book, that's the safe, reasonable speed for a motor vehicle. And those landed at 33 and 32 miles an hour. So as such, we post the speed limit plus or minus 5 miles an hour. In this situation, being the speed limit that was slightly below 35, in our experience that if we were to post 35, we could instantly influence the speed limit higher. The neighborhood then decided to utilize our speed limit change policy that we have here at the city that requires 75% of the property owners to sign a petition if they'd like to change it lower to 25 miles per hour. They did that with 76.2%, so they've exceeded our 75% threshold. And what that allows is the neighborhood to really buy into what that speed limit change is. It's not a surprise to them. And then that comes before you all. So it is staff's recommendation based on that to approve that change in speed limit for the neighborhood.
Question from council? Okay, thank you very much. Item number 9, consider authorizing city manager negotiating extra contract with Rommel.
All right. Thank you. The next item is with our Poplar Tent and Harris Road project. This is to execute a contract with Rummel, Klepper, and Call, or RK&K, as better known. This is a long time coming of going through the process with NCDOT, getting the municipal agreements to the process. We're ready to execute the contract for them where they are satisfied with the language. This contract is for the first phase of the design work. This will cover the roadway design, initial roadway design, traffic analysis, permitting, natural resources, and surveys. This will have to come back as the design is finalized and agreed upon with NCDOT. Of course, you know that there was an original design for Poplar Tent widening. So if this design under the new analysis does not line up or there's some deviation in that, obviously we need the state to look at that and bless any changes on their roadway at the end of the day. So we'll come back once DOT's clarified and good on their road. But this initial phase is for a not to exceed $201,840.23 to RK&K.
Okay. Questions, council? Yes, go ahead.
I think you made this intersection will be built to the specs of DOT for the Poplar Tent widening if we ever get Poplar Tent widened, correct?
To accept that future design. There may be some changes to the design, and that is what's been asked of the design firm to make sure. The study was done a few years ago, so it'll be updating everything. We're aware there were some other design iterations of that intersection. Regardless, it still accepts the 4-lane future Poplar Tent.
And we, the city of Concord, are going to manage the engineering and manage the construction with DOT's oversight, correct?
Blessing and reviews and all of that, yes, sir.
Yeah. Any more questions? Thank you. Item 10, consider accepting a preliminary application from James Castigai. Am I close? Castigai?
I was gonna wait till that was finished.
Yeah.
So Sue is here this evening. She's gonna present this item to council, Mr. Mayor.
Sue, how do you pronounce that?
I was going to say just the person at 182 Central Heights Drive.
Oh, okay.
Mayor, council members, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky. This request is from 182 Central Heights Drive, that property owner. There is an existing home there. The request is for water only. However, both city services are available. There is both water and sewer available to the lot, and the lot is adjacent to the existing city limits. So the recommendation is to allow, but to include, require annexation for this to go further.
So it is contiguous to our city limits, and it has water and sewer. Therefore, the recommendation is to do it if they have annexation, correct?
That is correct.
Council, any questions? Is that how council sees it also? All right, thank you. All right, item number 11, consider making appointments and reappointments of various City of Concord boards and commissions and the CDDC Board of Directors. So you have all received the list of recommendations, and are there any questions? We have a very good slate of candidates. Yeah. Thanks for the team that helped do this, and we will, any thoughts you have, please let me know that need to discuss. No, I have no comments dealing with consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that need to be pulled off and brought into the regular?
Longest one I've ever seen.
It is, well, it's every June is like that, by the way.
Yeah, lots of end-of-year budget amendments, cleanup for the budget.
Jessica, it's all your fault. All right, anything else to discuss tonight? Well, with that said, is there a motion to adjourn?
Betty has some.
Betty, yes, go ahead.
This is not a discussion, but I just want to share with everyone how pleased I was that my garbage was picked up today by a city employee in a city truck, and they were early. So thanks to solid waste.
You hear that? You got that? Very good. Yeah, I've been seeing the truck roam around a little bit, so I guess we'll be seeing more and more in the coming
Betty,
weeks.
I think mine was picked up by a guy in a pickup truck last week, so they were running out of breath.
Yeah. Anything else? We have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, see you Thursday.
Mayor?
Yes.
Castongway.
What?
Castongway.
Castongway.
It's actually French.